senior law enforcement executives who joined the 2023 March of the Living, sponsored by the Miller Center on Policing Excellence and Community Resilience, will make a statement on the importance of combating anti-Semitism, hatred, and intolerance. The delegation is comprised of representatives from Europol, from Hungary, Croatia, Canada, Belgium, the United States, including the National Sheriff's Association, the New Jersey State Police, and the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police.
In July of 1942, Police Battalion 101 gathered outside the small Polish town of Józefów at dawn. Major William Trapp, with tears in his eyes, handed down the orders of the day. Separate the healthy men for work. Shoot everyone else. He allowed any of these police officers that desired so to opt out. Only 12 out of 500 officers opted out. The rest stood up and executed the Jews. 17 hours later, the Jews of Józefów were no more. Unfortunately, police have been, at times, just bystanders. In some cases, we, your protectors, were complacent in these atrocities. Yet untold officers throughout Europe and elsewhere have risked their lives every day to protect vulnerable communities. Paul Gröninger is a shining example. Gröninger was a Swiss police captain. When Austrian Jews fled to Switzerland, his government ordered him to stop at the border all Jews. Instead, he falsified the documents to get them legal immigration status. The Gestapo noticed. Gröninger ignored their warnings. He was put in trial and convicted and sent to a concentration camp. The 12 Dutch policemen who refused to arrest 7 Jews in Grootegast, Netherlands, didn't fare as well. They all went to concentration camps, and at least one, Hank Droot, was executed there. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Paul Goldenberg. I represent the Rutgers Miller Center on Policing in New Jersey. But I'm also standing here today for Paul Gröninger, Hank Droot, and the 12 Józefów officers, and the countless law enforcement officers and officials who risked their lives across Europe to help Jews, Poles, Roma, and others during the Holocaust. You see, to many people, the Holocaust represents what? Distant history. That's short-sighted and dangerous. We've seen the consequences when police become the pawns of the tyrants. That's why we standing here today, the police men and women of the world, are marching, and we're proud and honored to march alongside each and every one of you on this day. We're all familiar with the phrase, never again. So we say to you today, the police of the free world at least, we will operationalize those words, never again. These carefully chosen, thank you. These carefully chosen men and women that I am so proud to stand beside me today. They represent different faiths, backgrounds, but they all understand that we, the police, have a special obligation to protect vulnerable and all communities. So, we pledge today, as the representatives of the men and women of policing, that we will in fact and indeed safeguard our vulnerable communities and will remain steadfast to internalizing the circumstance that Holocaust commemoration is not just for those who have experienced the horrors, but for all of us to commit and need to commit to defending our democracy and human rights today and forevermore. I would like to now call on the members of our delegation to read from a declaration that we are going to present today to the leaders of the march on this day, recognizing the 2023 March of the Living. So, In recognition of the 2023 March of the Living, remembrance of the Holocaust, genocide, and atrocities, the international law enforcement community recognizes the importance of solidarity against anti-Semitism, hatred, and intolerance. I'm now proud to call my colonel from the state of New Jersey, Colonel Patrick Callahan.
The foundations of civil society are secured through observance of the rule of law and the exercise of legitimate law enforcement.
Law enforcement in democratic societies are the servants and protectors of the rule of law.
Law enforcement has the obligation to learn from past mistakes and ensure errors are not repeated.
Law enforcement in today's democratic societies is responsible for ensuring the preservation of the community's rights to order and safety while respecting individual rights.
Increasingly, today's law enforcement needs to strengthen relationships in communities through community policing and other innovative practices to develop trust and relationships.
Civil society has come to recognize that law enforcement services constitute a fundamental pillar in the fight against anti-Semitism, hate crimes, extremism, targeted violence, and community conflict.
Now, therefore, the signatories declare that law enforcement is essential in the identification, recognition, confrontation, and prevention of the rise of intolerance and atrocities that undermine public safety and respect of rule of law. And
working with European and North American law enforcement agencies and in conjunction with the International March of the Living, the signatories will work together to develop a transnational training program for law enforcement executives that combines best practices addressing Holocaust awareness and hate crimes training.
We would now like to present the declaration to President Eidelman and the chairman.